As the ship accelerated into the vast expanse of space, Arya knew one thing for certain. The universe would never be this. The Stargazer's Rest sat at the edge of New Helena Colony, a popular watering hole for those seeking respite from the harsh realities of frontier life. On this particular evening, the bar hummed with its usual mix of chatter, laughter, and the occasional burst of raucous singing. Behind the bar stood Mac Ironheart, a burly man with graying hair and eyes that had seen more than their fair share of combat. He'd traded his pulse rifle for a cocktail shaker years ago, but the watchful gaze of a soldier never quite left him. As he poured drinks and swapped stories with the regulars, Mac couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Dr. Elara Voss sat at the far end of the bar, nursing a glass of synth wine and poring over data on her holopad. The xenobiologist had been studying the local flora and fauna for months, fascinated by the rapid mutations caused by New Helena's unique radiation patterns. She looked up, catching Mac's eye, and offered a tired smile. "Any breakthroughs, Doc?" Mac asked, sliding a fresh drink her way. Elara shook her head, her silver-streaked black hair falling across her face. "Nothing concrete yet, but there's something strange about the latest samples. The cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen before." At a nearby table, Zeke Hawkins, a young terraforming engineer, was regaling a group of wide-eyed newcomers with tales of his latest project. "I'm telling you," he said, gesturing wildly, "once we get the atmospheric processors fully operational, this rock will be as green as old Earth herself." The newcomers listened with a mix of hope and skepticism. New Helena had been a tough nut to crack, its harsh environment resisting human efforts to tame it. But people like Zeke, with their boundless optimism and technical know-how, was slowly but surely making progress. As the night wore on, the crowd began to thin. Mac was just about to call last orders when the bar's front door flew open with a bang that silenced every voice in the room. Framed in the doorway stood a figure that seemed to have stepped straight out of humanity's worst nightmares. The alien was massive, easily 7 feet tall, with a body covered in sleek, mottled armor that seemed to shift colors in the bar's dim light. Its head was adorned with writhing tendrils that might have been hair or sensory organs, and a mask of polished metal concealed its face, reflecting the shocked expressions of the bar's patrons. For a moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the bar's ancient cooling unit and the rhythmic clicking emanating from the alien's direction. Then, with a grace that belied its size, the creature stepped into the bar. Panic erupted. Patrons scrambled from their seats, knocking over tables and chairs in a haste to put distance between themselves and the alien intruder. Zeke's group of newcomers bolted for the back exit, their earlier bravado evaporating in the face of this unknown threat. Mac's hand instinctively reached beneath the bar, fingers closing around the grip of the old pulse pistol he kept there for emergencies. He'd heard stories of alien raiders striking frontier colonies, but New Helena was supposed to be too far off the beaten path to attract that kind of attention. The alien's head swiveled, taking in the chaos of the room. Its gaze, hidden behind that expressionless mask, seemed to linger on Elara, who stood frozen, her scientific curiosity warring with her survival instinct. "Everybody stay calm," Mac called out, his voice cutting through the panic. Years of command experience lent his words a strength that momentarily stilled the room. "Head for the back, nice and easy. Doc, Zeke, help get these people out of here." Elara snapped out of her trance at the sound of her name. She began ushering the nearest patrons toward the rear of the bar, her eyes never leaving the alien. Zeke, to his credit, shook off his fear and moved to assist, guiding a group of shell-shocked miners towards safety. The alien, seemingly content to observe for the moment, took another step into the bar. Its armor clinked softly with each movement, and now Mac could see the array of weaponry adorning its body. This was no mere raider or pirate. This creature was a hunter, and they were all its prey. As the last of the patrons filed out the back, Mac raised his pulse pistol, aiming squarely at the alien's chest. "I don't know what you are or what you want," he said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "But you're not welcome here. Turn around and leave, or things are gonna get real unpleasant." The alien's response was a low, rumbling sound that might have been laughter. It raised a gauntleted hand, and a trio of red targeting lasers sprang to life, dancing across Mac's chest. Time seemed to slow. Mac knew his old pistol was no match for the alien's advanced weaponry, but he'd be damned if he went down without a fight. His finger tightened on the trigger. Just then, a bottle came sailing through the air, smashing against the alien's head in a spray of glass and liquor. Mac's eyes darted to the source. Ilara stood by the back door, her face a mixture of terror and determination. The alien roared, a sound that shook dust from the rafters, and whirled to face this new threat. In that instant of distraction, Mac knew their chances of survival had just increased from impossible to merely improbable. The night was far from over, and the real battle was about to begin. Aim again, and neither would she. The alien's roar still echoed through the bar as Mac vaulted over the counter, his pulse pistol blazing. Blue-white energy bolts struck the creature's armor, leaving scorch marks but doing little real damage. The alien whirled back to face him, its mask gleaming in the flickering light of the bar's failing power system. "Doc, Zeke, get everyone out of here," Max shouted, diving behind an overturned table as the alien's shoulder-mounted plasma caster came to life. A bolt of searing energy turned his former cover into splinters and molten metal. Ilara hesitated at the back door, her scientific curiosity warring with her survival instinct. "But Mac, go," he barked, popping up to fire another salvo at the alien. "I'll buy you time." Zeke grabbed Ilara's arm, pulling her towards the exit. "Come on, Doc. We need to warn the colony." As they disappeared into the night, Mac allowed himself a grim smile. At least some of them might make it. The alien stalked forward, its masked face turning this way, and that as if savoring the hunt. Mac used the moment to assess his situation. The pulse pistol was nearly drained, and he was running out of cover. He needed a plan, fast. His eyes fell on the bar's ancient fire suppression system. It was old tech, using chemical foam instead of the modern nanobot swarms. It might just work. Mac made a dash for the bar, pulse pistol spitting the last of its charge. The alien's return fire was devastating, turning tables and chairs into smoldering wreckage. He felt the heat of a near-miss sear across his back as he vaulted the bar counter. Landing hard, Max scrambled for the fire system controls. His fingers flew over the keypad, overriding safety protocols. Warning klaxons blared as the system charged. The alien reached the bar, its massive form looming over the counter. Mac looked up into that expressionless mask and grinned. "Welcome to New Helena, Ubley. Hope you enjoy your stay." He slammed his fist on the activation button. With a whoosh, chemical foam erupted from nozzles throughout the bar. The alien rolled in surprise, momentarily blinded and disoriented. Mac used the chaos to his advantage, grabbing a bottle of high-proof Centaurian whiskey and smashing it against the creature's head. The alien staggered back, shaking its head to clear the foam from its mask's vision slits. Mac vaulted the bar again, making a break for the exit. He'd bought himself some time, but he knew it wouldn't be long before. A searing pain lanced through his leg. Mac crashed to the floor, his wounded limb refusing to support his weight. He rolled onto his back, seeing the alien emerge from the dissipating foam, its wrist-mounted blade gleaming with his blood. This was it then. At least he'd given the others a chance. Mac closed his eyes, waiting for the final blow. It never came. The sound of shattering glass filled the air, followed by the alien's pained roar. Mac's eyes snapped open to see Ilara standing in the doorway, her arms still extended from throwing another bottle. Beside her, Zeke wielded a piece of piping like a club, his face a mask of terror and determination. "Come on, old man," Ilara called, rushing to Mac's side. "Your martyr complex is going to get you killed." Zeke took up a defensive stance, his makeshift weapon held high. Hurry, Doc. That thing's already recovering. Together, Ilara and Zeke managed to haul Mac to his feet. They stumbled out of the bar and into the cool night air of New Helena. The colony's warning sirens were already blaring, lights coming on in buildings across the settlement. We need to get to the emergency bunker, Mac grunted, limping along between his unlikely rescuers. If that thing's here for what I think it is, we're all in deep trouble. Ilara's scientific curiosity got the better of her. What do you mean? What is that creature? Mac's face was grim. Something I hoped I'd never see again. They call themselves the Yorcha, but most folks know them as predators. They're hunters, and to them, we're nothing but game. The sound of shattering wood behind them spurred the group to move faster. The alien, the predator, had recovered and was in pursuit. The bunker's on the other side of the colony, Zeke panted. We'll never make it in time. Mac's mind raced. The young engineer was right. They needed a closer sanctuary. His eyes fell on the hulking form of an atmospheric processor at the edge of the settlement. There, he said, pointing. We can use the maintenance tunnels to lose it. As they changed course, weaving between buildings and abandoned vehicles, Matt couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. One predator was bad enough, but in his experience, they rarely hunted alone. The night was far from over, and New Helena's real trial was just beginning. The atmospheric processor loomed before them, a behemoth of steel and composite materials that hummed with barely contained power. Mac, Ilara, and Zeke stumbled towards it, the sound of the pursuing predator growing ever closer. There, Zeke pointed to a maintenance hatch near the base of the structure. That'll get us into the tunnel system. As they reached the hatch, a plasma bolt sizzled past, melting a portion of the processor's outer shell. Ilara yelped in surprise, nearly dropping Mac in the process. Get it open, kid, Mac barked, fumbling for the access panel. His military override codes were years out of date, but he prayed they still worked. Zeke's fingers flew over the keypad, his engineering expertise coming to the fore. Almost got it. There. The hatch hissed open, revealing a dark tunnel beyond. They tumbled inside, Zeke sealing the entrance behind them just as another plasma bolt struck, leaving a glowing dent in the metal. For a moment, they sat in darkness, their ragged breathing the only sound. Then, with a flicker, emergency lighting came to life, bathing the tunnel in a soft blue glow. That won't hold it for long, Matt grunted, examining his wounded leg. The predator's blade had cut deep, and he was losing blood fast. Ilara tore a strip from her shirt, fashioning a makeshift tourniquet. We need to get you proper medical attention, she said, her scientist's detachment warring with obvious concern. Later, Mac replied, gritting his teeth as she tightened the bandage. Right now, we need a plan. Zeke paced nervously, his earlier bravado fading in the face of their dire situation. Plan? What plan? We're trapped in here with that thing out there hunting us. Keep it together, kid, Max snapped. Panic's the real enemy here. Ilara finished tending to Mac's wound and stood, her eyes scanning their surroundings. These tunnels, they connect to the other processors, don't they? Zeke nodded, a glimmer of understanding dawning on his face. Yeah, it's a whole network. We use them for maintenance and to regulate the terraforming process. Then we're not trapped, Ilara said, a hint of excitement in her voice. We have options. Max smiled grimly. Now you're thinking, Doc Zeke, what can you tell us about these tunnels? Any way we can use them to our advantage? The young engineer's face scrunched in concentration. Well, they're climate-controlled, for one. Lots of sensors to monitor atmospheric conditions, and there are security protocols in place to prevent contamination between processors. Security protocols. Mac's eyes narrowed. What kind? Containment doors, mostly. They can seal off sections of the tunnel in case of a breach or toxic leak. Mac's mind raced, the beginnings of a plan forming. Can you control those doors from here? Zeke nodded hesitantly. Yeah, with my access codes, I should be able to. A thunderous boom cut him off. The hatch at the tunnel's entrance buckled inward, the metal groaning under immense pressure. Time's up, Max said, struggling to his feet. We need to move. Zeke, lead the way. Find us a defensible position where you can access the system controls. They set off down the tunnel, Mac leaning heavily on Ilara for support. Behind them, the sound of tearing metal echoed through the passage. The Predator was through. As they hurried through the winding tunnels, Ilara's scientific curiosity got the better of her. Mac, you seem to recognize that creature. How? What do you know about them? Mac's face darkened. Ran into them once years ago. Classified up on a distant colony. Thought it was just pirate activity at first, but he trailed off, lost in memories. But what? Zeke asked, glancing back nervously. But it was a slaughter, Mac finished. These predators, they're not just aliens. They're hunters, and to them, we're the ultimate game. They live for the thrill of a hunt, and they've got tech that makes ours look like stone tools. Ilara's eyes widened. Fascinating. A species that's evolved around the concept of hunting as a cultural cornerstone. The anthropological implications alone. Save the scientific curiosity for later, Doc, Mac interrupted. Right now, we need to focus on staying alive. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a large circular chamber. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing atmospheric readouts and system diagnostics. This is it, Zeke said, moving to a central console. I can access the tunnel controls from here. Good, Mac nodded. Seal off every route except the one we came through. Let's funnel this bastard right to us. As Zeke worked, Ilara helped Mac to a makeshift barricade of maintenance equipment. You have a plan, I hope, she asked. Mac checked the charge on his pulse pistol, nearly depleted, but it might be enough. Working on it. Zeke, those containment doors, how strong are they? Strong enough to withstand explosive decompression, Zeke replied, not looking up from his work. Why? A predatory grin spread across Mac's face. Because we're going to use this hunter's own game against it. If we can't outfight it, we'll outsmart it. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the tunnel, growing closer. Mac positioned himself behind the barricade, pulse pistol at the ready. Whatever you're planning, Ilara said, her voice tight with tension. I hope it works. So do I, Doc, Mac replied. So do I. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, with a shimmer of light, the Predator decloaked at the chamber's entrance, its mask gleaming in the blue emergency lighting. Mac raised his pistol. Welcome to the party, Ugly. Hope you're ready for round 2. The Predator's mask tilted, regarding Mac with an alien curiosity. Its shoulder-mounted plasmacaster whirred to life, targeting lasers dancing across the makeshift barricade. Now, Zeke, Mac shouted, opening fire with his pulse pistol. The young engineer slammed his hand down on the console. Containment doors slammed shut throughout the tunnel network, the sound of metal on metal echoing through the chamber. The Predator's head snapped around, momentarily distracted by the sudden change in its environment. Mac's shots struck true, peppering the alien's armor with energy bolts. They didn't penetrate, but they staggered the hunter, buying precious seconds. Ilara, the coolant lines. Mac called out, gesturing to a set of pipes running along the chamber's wall. The xenobiologist didn't hesitate. She grabbed a piece of piping from their barricade and swung it with all her might, cracking the coolant lines. A pressurized spray of frigid liquid burst forth, filling the air with a dense, cold mist. The Predator roared in frustration, its thermal vision suddenly useless in the temperature-controlled chaos. It fired blindly, plasma bolts sizzling through the mist and leaving scorch marks on the far wall. Move, Mac ordered, holding himself up. Zeke, which way? Left tunnel, the engineer replied, abandoning his console. It leads to the secondary processor. They stumbled into the left passage, leaving the disoriented predator behind. Zeke sealed the door behind them, but the sound of tearing metal told them it wouldn't hold for long. "Keep moving," Mac grunted, his injured leg protesting with every step. "We need to put as much distance between us and that thing as possible." As they hurried through the winding tunnels, Ilara's scientific mind raced. "Mac, that creature, its technology is incredible. The adaptive camouflage alone is decades beyond anything we've developed." "Yeah, and it'll use that tech to mount our heads on its wall if we don't focus," Mac replied grimly. Zeke, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I might have an idea. These tunnels, they're not just for maintenance. They're part of the terraforming process." Mac raised an eyebrow. "Go on, kid." "Well, we're constantly adjusting the atmospheric mix, right? Tweaking oxygen levels, filtering out toxins. What if we could use that against the predator?" A slow smile spread across Mac's face. "Now you're thinking like a soldier, Zeke. What did you have in mind?" Before Zeke could reply, a bone-chilling screech echoed through the tunnel. The predator was on the move again, and it sounded angry. "Tell me on the way," Mac said, urging them forward. "We need to find another control station." They pressed on, the sound of pursuit growing ever closer. Zeke led them through a maze of passages, his knowledge of the terraforming system proving invaluable. "There," he called out, pointing ahead. "Secondary control room. We can access the atmospheric regulators from there." They burst into another circular chamber, this one filled with even more complex machinery than the last. Zeke immediately set to work on the main console, his fingers flying over the controls. "All right, here's the plan," he said, not looking up from his work. "These tunnels are designed to process and filter the planet's atmosphere, right? So what if we flood this section with something the predator can't breathe?" Ilara's eyes widened. "Brilliant. If we can alter the atmospheric mix, we might be able to incapacitate it without harming ourselves." Mac nodded approvingly. "Not bad, kid. What do you need from us?" "Time," Zeke replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "I need to override the safety protocols and reroute the gas mix. It'll take a few minutes." A thunderous boom echoed from the tunnel behind them. The predator was getting close. "You'll have your time," Mac said, checking the charge on his pulse pistol. 1, maybe 2 shots left. "Doc, help me set up another barricade. We need to slow that thing down." As they worked to create a defensive position, Ilara couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. "Mac, you mentioned encountering these creatures before. How did you survive?" Mac's face darkened. "We didn't. Not really. Out of a platoon of 50, only 3 of us made it out alive. And we only survived because we learned to think like them, to turn their own hunting instincts against them." "How do you mean?" Ilara pressed. "The predators, they're not just random killers. They have a code, a sense of honor. They respect strength, cunning. If we can prove ourselves worthy opponents, we might just stand a chance." Before Ilara could respond, the chamber's entrance exploded inward. The predator stood framed in the doorway, its armor scorched and dented, but still terrifyingly functional. "Zeke," Matt called out, raising his pistol. "Almost there," the engineer replied, his voice strained. "Just a few more seconds." The predator's mask regarded them silently, its head tilting as if considering its next move. Then, with deliberate slowness, it reached up and detached its plasma caster, letting the weapon clatter to the floor. "What's it doing?" Ilara whispered, her voice tight with fear. Mac's eyes narrowed. "Leveling the playing field. It wants a real fight." With a metallic hiss, wrist blades extended from the predator's gauntlets. It took a step forward, its body language radiating deadly intent. "Zeke," Mac said, his voice low and steady. "Whatever you're going to do, do it now." The young engineer's hand hovered over the final command. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, and pressed the button. Alarms blared throughout the chamber as the atmospheric mix began to change. The predator hesitated, its head swiveling as it tried to assess this new threat. Mac allowed himself a grim smile. "Welcome to New Helena's special blend, you ugly mother." His words were cut off as the predator lunged forward, blades flashing in the chamber's harsh light. The real fight was about to begin, and the outcome would determine not just their fate, but that of the entire colony. The predator's blades sliced through the air where Mac's head had been a split second earlier. He rolled to the side, his injured legs screaming in protest, and came up firing. The last charge from his pulse pistol struck the alien's shoulder, leaving a smoking crater in its armor, but doing little to slow its advance. "Elara, Zeke, get back," Mac shouted, tossing the now useless pistol aside and grabbing a length of pipe from their makeshift barricade. The xenobiologist and the engineer retreated to the far side of the chamber, Zeke's fingers still dancing over the control panel as he fine-tuned the atmospheric mix. Mac raised the pipe just in time to deflect another strike from the predator. The impact sent shockwaves through his arms, nearly causing him to drop his improvised weapon. The alien was incredibly strong, its every movement a deadly dance of precision and power. "How long before the gas takes effect?" Mac grunted, narrowly avoiding a swipe that would have opened his throat. "It's not that simple," Zeke called back, his voice strained. "The predator's mask is filtering out most of the toxins. We need to get it off." "Easier said than done," Mac thought grimly. He feinted left, then brought the pipe up in a vicious arc, catching the predator under its chin. The alien's head snapped back, but it recovered quickly, retaliating with a flurry of strikes that forced Mac on the defensive. As they fought, Elara's scientific mind raced. "The mask," she muttered, her eyes darting between the battling figures and the complex machinery surrounding them. "It's not just for breathing. It's got to be tied into their other systems." An idea struck her. She turned to Zeke. "The atmospheric processors, they generate an electromagnetic field, don't they? To ionize the air." Zeke's eyes widened in understanding. "Yeah, but it's not strong enough to." He paused, a slow grin spreading across his face. "Oh, I see where you're going with this. Hang on." As Zeke worked feverishly at the console, Mac was losing ground. The predator's superior strength and speed were telling, and his injured leg was slowing him down. A particularly vicious strike knocked the pipe from his hands, sending it clattering across the chamber floor. The predator paused, tilting its head as if considering its prey. Then, with deliberate slowness, it retracted its wrist blades. Mac, breathing heavily, managed a grim chuckle. "What's the matter, Utley? Getting bored?" In response, the alien reached up and, with a hiss of escaping air, removed its mask. The face beneath was like nothing Mac had ever seen, a nightmare visage of mandibles and razor-sharp teeth. The predator opened its maw and let out a roar that shook dust from the ceiling. "Ugh, guys," Mac called out, backing away slowly. "Whatever you're planning, now would be a good time." "Almost there," Zeke replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "Elara, I need you to reroute power from the secondary systems. We're going to overload the electromagnetic generator." As Elara rushed to comply, the predator advanced on Mac. Without its mask, the effects of the altered atmosphere were beginning to show. Its breathing was labored, its movements slightly less coordinated, but it was still a deadly opponent, and Mac was running out of options. "Come on, you ugly son of a bitch," Mac growled, raising his fists. "Let's finish this." The predator lunged forward, its massive form bearing down on Mac with terrifying speed. At the last possible second, Mac dropped and rolled, using the alien's momentum against it. The predator crashed into a bank of machinery, sending sparks flying. "Now, Zeke," Elara shouted, throwing the final switch. The chamber filled with a high-pitched whine as the electromagnetic generator spooled up to dangerous levels. Arcs of electricity danced across the metal surfaces, and the air itself seemed to crackle with energy. The effect on the predator was immediate and dramatic. its body convulsed, mandibles flaring wide in a silent scream. The various pieces of technology integrated into its armor sparked and sputtered, overloaded by the intense electromagnetic pulse. Mac, seeing his opportunity, charged forward. Ignoring the pain in his leg, he tackled the disoriented alien, sending them both crashing to the floor. They grappled desperately, the predator's strength fading but still formidable. "Mac, get clear," Zeke yelled over the rising whine of the generator. "It's going to blow." With a final surge of effort, Mac pushed away from the predator, rolling to the side just as Zeke hit the emergency shutdown. The generator exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal, the blast knocking them all off their feet. For a moment, silence reigned in the chamber, broken only by the sound of labored breathing and the crackle of dying electrical fires. Mac pushed himself up on shaky arms, his entire body aching from the fight. The predator lay motionless on the floor, its armor smoking and sparking. Its chest still rose and fell, but weakly. Is it dead?" Zeke asked, cautiously approaching. "Not yet," Mac grunted, struggling to his feet. "But it's down for the count. Nice work, both of you." Ilara rushed to Mac's side, supporting him as he limped towards the fallen alien. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and scientific curiosity. Mac's face was grim as he looked down at their defeated foe. Now we get answers, because I've got a feeling this is just the beginning of our problems." As if in response to his words, a distant alarm began to sound. The colony's early warning system, designed to alert them of approaching ships. Zeke's face paled as he checked a nearby console. "Oh no," he whispered. "We've got multiple contacts entering the atmosphere. Big ones." Mac's suspicion had been correct. The night was far from over, and the real battle for New Helena was about to begin. The colony's warning sirens wailed through the night, their urgent cry echoing off the prefab buildings and mingling with the sounds of panicked colonists. Mac, Ilara, and Zeke emerged from the atmospheric processor, dragging the unconscious predator between them. "We need to get to the command center," Mac grunted, his injured leg protesting with every step. "If there are more of these bastards coming, the colony needs to be ready." As they made their way through the chaotic streets, the sky lit up with the fiery trails of multiple entry vehicles. They were larger than standard drop pods, their designs sleek and predatory, unmistakably of the same origin as their captive. "Those aren't just hunters," Mac muttered, his face grim. "That's a war party." They reached the command center, a squat, fortified building at the heart of the colony. Inside, it was a flurry of activity. Colonel Reeves, the head of New Helena's security force, was barking orders to a group of harried-looking officers. "Ironheart," Reeves exclaimed, catching sight of Mac. "What in blazes is going on? And what the hell is that thing?" Mac quickly brought the colonel up to speed, explaining about the predators and the imminent threat. As he spoke, Ilara and Zeke worked to secure their captive, using heavy-duty restraints designed for the planet's more dangerous wildlife. "This is bad, real bad," Reeves muttered, running a hand through his thinning hair. "We're not equipped for this kind of fight. Our defenses were designed to handle claim jumpers and pirates, not an alien invasion force." "Then we improvise," Mac said, his voice hard. "These hunters, they respect strength and cunning. We need to show them that humanity isn't easy prey." Zeke, who had been poring over the colony's schematics, suddenly spoke up. "I might have an idea. The terraforming equipment, we can weaponize it." All eyes turned to the young engineer. "Explain," Reeves demanded. "The atmospheric processors, they're designed to handle extreme temperature and pressure differentials," Zeke said, his words coming fast in his excitement. "If we overload them in a controlled manner, we could create localized storms, temperature fluctuations, maybe even small-scale seismic activity." Ilara's eyes lit up with understanding. "And if we combine that with what we learned about their technology's vulnerability to electromagnetic pulses, we might just have a fighting chance," Mac finished, a grim smile on his face. Reese nodded, hope kindling in his eyes. All right, let's do it. Zeke, you and Dr. Voss get to work on those processes. Ironheart, I need you to help coordinate our ground defense. These people aren't soldiers, but they're all we've got. As they moved to their tasks, a groan from the corner drew their attention. The predator was regaining consciousness. Mac approached the bound alien, crouching down to meet its gaze. Listen up, Ugly. Your friends are on their way, and we're going to do everything in our power to send them packing. But I'm giving you one chance to call this off. Tell them to leave, and we'll let you go. The predator's mandibles clicked, and to everyone's surprise, it spoke in a guttural, but understandable version of English. No retreat, no surrender. The hunt must continue. Mac's face hardened. Then you've sealed your own fate. Humanity isn't your prey. We're your worst nightmare. Over the next hour, the colony transformed into a fortress. Colonists were armed with whatever weapons could be scrounged, from mining lasers to improvised explosives. Zeke and Ilara worked feverishly to modify the atmospheric processors, turning terraforming equipment into weapons of war. As the first Predator dropships descended, Max stood atop the command center, surveying the makeshift defenses. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect, but it was all they had. They're coming in hot, Reeves called out over the comm. All units prepare to engage. The night sky lit up with weapons fire. Predator ships strafed the colony's defenses, while ground forces began to deploy. But humanity was ready. Zeke triggered the first of the modified processors. A localized storm materialized over one of the Predator landing zones, buffeting their ships with gale force winds and disorienting their sensors. Ilara's electromagnetic pulse generators played havoc with the aliens' advanced technology, leaving them vulnerable to the colonists' counterattacks. The battle raged through the night, a desperate struggle for survival. The Predators were skilled, their technology superior, but humanity's ingenuity and sheer determination proved to be a match for alien cunning. As dawn broke over New Helena, the remaining Predator forces retreated to their ships, leaving behind their dead and wounded. The colony had held, bloodied but unbroken. Mac, his uniform torn and bloody, limped to where their original captive still sat bound. The alien regarded him with what might have been respect. You fought well, the Predator growled. Worthy prey. Mac shook his head. No, not prey. Equals. Remember that and tell your people. Earth and her colonies are off limits. We're not your game. We're the new apex predators in this galaxy. As the last Predator ship vanished into the morning sky, Mac turned to survey the battered but victorious colony. Humans from all walks of life, scientists, engineers, farmers, and improvised soldiers, stood side by side, their faces etched with exhaustion but also pride. Ilara approached, a datapad in her hand. We did it, she said, wonder in her voice. We actually did it. Mac nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. Yeah, we did. Humanity faced its greatest challenge and came out on top. We've proven ourselves on a galactic stage. Zeke joined them, his face smudged with soot but grinning from ear to ear. So, what happens now? Mac's gaze turned to the horizon, where the first of New Helena's 2 suns was peeking over the mountains. Now we rebuild, we adapt, and we prepare, because out there, in the vastness of space, there are more challenges waiting. But we've shown that humanity is ready to face them head-on. As the colony began the process of recovery, the tale of New Helena's stand against the Predators spread. It became a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and courage. A reminder that no matter the odds, no matter the foe, humanity would always rise to the challenge. The universe had been put on notice, humans were here to stay, and they were a force to be reckoned with.